So I recently recorded a video called Grieving the Body I Wish I Had, and that video was in terms of coming to terms with the fact that I've just never had a fully healthy body in terms of long-term illness, chronic pain. And since I recorded that video, I've just been reflecting on a conversation I had with someone a couple years back now, and that person essentially asked me, Tanisha, why do you attribute all of your successes through your suffering to God? When it was you that did it. And I guess that also led me to think about how people relate God and suffering, and how can I believe in a God when I have been through a lot in life. How do you continue to believe in God, and can a God exist when there is such suffering in the first place? And that made me think about God is not the author of suffering. God is the creator of the world. Genesis 1 verse 1 literally says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. One of my favorite things is being in nature, looking at the variety of colors, the varying designs, the animals and insects, the flow of the water, just how intricate everything is. Something so detailed doesn't just appear, it had to have a creator. So I remember back in the day in secondary school when we had to do religious education. I can't lie, that lesson was bants. But we learned a story, and it was about a watch that was found on a beach. And there was nobody else on the beach, but it was like this watch couldn't have just shown up. Especially when you looked at the watch, it was a very detailed watch with such an intricate design. There had to be a designer, a maker for that watch. In like manner, when you go to galleries and you see art, or you go to fashion shows and you see the clothes that have been created and sewn, there had to be an artist, there had to be a fashion designer behind that. So how comes when we look at our own bodies and the intricate systems built within, whether that be to blink, to sneeze, to cough, to speak, even to move, or when you look at all the things of nature, you learn about so many things in science. Those things didn't just happen. Why can't we think that there had to be a creator for those things as well? Everything that exists has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. Henceforth, well, that's a big word, henceforth. Did I even use that right? Let's not do henceforth, scratch henceforth. But nothing doesn't come from something, or something doesn't come from nothing. So, back to Genesis 1 verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. God's sovereignty. But you're probably thinking, okay, Tanisha, that's the creation part. But what about the suffering part? So let's go to the suffering part now. So when it comes to suffering, I'm sure we've all heard the story of how suffering and sin entered the world, from a Christian point of view anyway. So we know about Adam and Eve. We know they ate the fruit that they weren't supposed to eat, which was direct disobedience to what God told them to do. And as a result, sin entered the world. And as a result of sin, suffering, death, decay, wars, all of these things are going on right now. And these are not a direct punishment. I don't look at my suffering or my long-term illness as a direct punishment. Rather, I look at it as a downstream of a broken plan, God's broken original design. In Genesis 1 verse 31, we see that God saw what he made and it was very good. And by the time we reach Genesis 3, he's now cursed the ground and things like that. And now we're seeing the effects of that. But if we are to look at suffering, and we look at suffering, we say suffering is wrong. Not just I don't like it, but we make more than a statement. We're literally claiming pain is bad, pain is wrong, this shouldn't be happening. That's a moral claim. But if there is no creator and the universe just came to be from a bang, and it's just rocks and it's just chemicals and whatnot, how would we know that suffering is objectively wrong? Do you know what I mean? Like, how would we have something or a reference point to measure it against if there wasn't anything? Suffering, in a sense, would just be like, I don't know, rocks decaying, just because that's the order of the world, right? But when you feel that sense inside you, say, I love this concept of Imago Dei. And Imago Dei is the fact that we were made in the image of God. So Genesis 1 verse 27, he talks about, let us make man in our image. And with that, we have the characteristics of God, not just copy and paste, but literal characteristics. And throughout the Bible, we see that God is a God of justice. And That's where your sense of this is wrong, this is bad comes from. It doesn't just come from anywhere, because as I said, guys, I shouldn't have sat in a garden. I sat in a flower garden, knowing that I don't like bees. Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed.
So before I was really interrupted, what I was trying to say is the fact that we universally accept that suffering is bad, that suffering offends how things are supposed to be, shows that there is a standard that we're all measuring against. If there is a moral standard, that implies that there's a moral standard giver, or a lawgiver, or a moral giver. You know what I'm trying to say, yeah? So those feelings aren't just coming from anywhere. And you know what? I actually have a Bible verse on that just says what I was going to say. And it's found in Romans 2 verse 14 to 15. And this is the easy Bible version. And it says, the Gentiles, who are literally just anyone that's not Jewish, do not have God's law, but they still may do the right things that the law teaches. They do right things because of what they themselves think is right. In that way, they are showing that they have a certain law in their minds. Even though they do not know God's law, those people show that they know what is right. It is as if God has written his law deep inside them. Their thoughts tell them the difference between what is right and what is wrong. So I say all that to say, I remember when the question was originally asked, I actually didn't have an answer for the person that asked me the question at the beginning. I literally just looked at him and said, yeah, because he did, because I believed that in it. Like, I didn't have this thorough, thought through answer, because I was caught off guard, and two, I don't think I'd actually ever stopped to think about it. Like, fun fact, I've actually never prayed for God to remove my illnesses. Like, minor things, obviously I've been like, God heal me or get me through the surgery or whatever, but I've never been like, oh my gosh, God take away my congenital heart disease or remove my scoliosis. It's just never come to mind. Don't know why. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I've just never thought to say it. And I guess when I think about, it was me in the operating theatres, it was me feeling the pain, it was me sitting in the appointments, it was my body there. So I know what I showed up for, but did I have the mental capacity without God to go through all of that? Was I guiding the doctor's hands? Was I doing anything? Absolutely not. It was all God. And I get it. I think as humans, we often look to creation for answers. We look towards everything else. And I get it, again, because we like physical things. We like what we see. We like what we know. We're creatures of comfort, creatures of ease. We just want answers. But we feel the wind and we don't see the wind, right? Same way I feel God, even though I don't see him. I know he's there. I ain't got a front. There are days where I'm like, no, God, I actually listen to it. Like, what's going on, bro? I need to touch me, do something, send a sign so I can know that you're real. So it is hard, but I ain't gonna backtrack and say that God isn't real. I keep getting distracted. But as I was saying, if I strongly believe that God made me with intention, made the world with intention, the universe, the Milky Way, the stars, the galaxies, everything around and in between, I can't now come and say that same God hasn't now helped me through everything. I can't pick and choose when I want to believe and when I don't want to believe. I can't now turn to myself and look at my own ability, my own resilience, my own strength, because none of that has come from me. All of that had to have come from God if I believe that God created the world. If I look to myself, that's when it becomes pride and ego. And those things in itself are sins. And also, I don't believe in coincidence. Like, when I look at how life has panned out, as much as there has been suffering, I have seen the hand in suffering. The suffering ain't over. There's still pain, there's still down days, there's still days where I ain't gonna lie, like, I'll be like, God really has favorites. And I'll be doing a comparison. I'm like, why did you do this to me? I'm not gonna front. There are days where I'm like, this ain't fair. Like, I literally will say out loud, their life ain't fair, or I have low moods, or I will just sit in comparison, but comparison will ruin you. If you look to creation and not look up to your creator, you'll forget everything that was intended for your life. So I think I'm going to practice more looking upwards to my creator and just continuing to ground myself in the reality and in the truth that this world didn't just come to be. I didn't just come to be. So this isn't the end. There has to be more. And suffering is I'm not in it alone, essentially, and neither are you. If you're going through any form of suffering, it doesn't even have to be long-term illness, anything, I'm telling you for free, I wouldn't have been able to make it if there wasn't a God helping me through, and finding peace somehow. So I pray that whoever has needed to watch this video has watched this video. If this does resonate with you, or if you enjoyed this video, or if you want to know more questions, don't what's the word I'm looking for? Hesitate. Don't hesitate to reach out. Make sure to not just watch this video, but share this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.